So my policy claim on the subject of the death penalty is that the death penalty is efficient and necessary. To support my claim, I'll talk about the proper retribution for those who commit murder and rape, the cost of the death penalty being less than that of life without parole, and how this sentence deters criminals from committing capital offense crimes. My opponent also states the death penalty has the potential to kill the innocent. According to Stephen Stewart, prosecuting attorney of the Clark County, Indiana, there is no credible evidence to show that an innocent person has been executed. He states that there is no credible evidence to show that an innocent person has been executed since the death penalty was reenacted in 1976. Furthermore, he goes on to say that the inevitability of a mistake should not serve as grounds to eliminate the death penalty any more than the risk of having a fatal wreck should make automobiles illegal. So just because there's a chance of a mistake doesn't mean that we should abolish something that is part of the structure of retribution. Someone who murders or rapes another human being can only be made to pay for his actions by forfeiting his own life. This is so simply because a loss of freedom does not and cannot compare to a loss of or deprivation of life. In Louisiana, Patrick Kennedy raped his 8-year-old stepdaughter. The rape was uncommonly brutal. It tore the victim's perineum from her vaginal opening to her anal opening. It tore her vagina on the interior such that it separated partially from her cervix and allowed her rectum to protrude into her vagina. In June of 2008, the case Kennedy versus Louisiana, in appeal, the Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty is unconstitutional as punishment for the rape of a child where death did not occur nor was intended. Actions like this deserve more severe punishment than that of a third-strike burglar, which is 25 to life, in an air-conditioned, cable-equipped prison where a person gets free meals 3 times a day, personal recreation time, and regular visits with friends and family. It's a slap in the face to the law. Without the death penalty, there is no fair justice. My third supporting claim is that the cost of death row is sufficiently less than that of life without parole. Dudley Sharp, Director of Death Penalty Resources at Justice for All, says that Justice for All estimates that life without parole cases will cost $1.2 million to $3.6 million more than equivalent death penalty cases. He also says that there's no question that the upfront costs of the death penalty are significantly higher than that of equivalent life without parole cases. However, there also appears to be no question that over time, equivalent life without parole cases are much more expensive than death penalty cases. There is some more logic behind this as well. Eden Sutherland, with a PhD, late president of the American Sociological Society, and Dr. R. Cressy, PhD, late professor of sociology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, shed some light on the idea. In their book titled Criminology, they write that the cost is not inherent in the death penalty, but imposed by judges. It's not cheaper to keep a criminal confined, because most of the time he will appeal just as much, causing as many costs as a convict under death sentence. People on death row, as well as people in for life without parole, will appeal as often as possible. People in for life will appeal to the end of their natural life, while people on death row will appeal to the the day of their execution. The sooner one is obviously death row. My fourth and final supporting point is that the death penalty deters the crimes of criminals. The idea that one will be executed is a fearful one. A comment by Ernest van den Haag, late professor of jurisprudence at Fordham University, supports this claim. Common sense, lately bolstered by statistics, tells us that the death penalty will deter murder. People fear nothing more than death. Therefore, nothing will deter a criminal more than the fear of death. Life in prison is less feared. Murderers clearly prefer it to execution, otherwise they would not try to be sentenced to life in prison instead of death. Therefore, a life sentence must be less deterrent than a death sentence, and we must execute murderers as long as it is merely possible that their execution protects citizens from future murder. If murderers have something to fear that is enough influence to deter the action of murder or rape, why not keep the system? The death penalty is successful and necessary. Thank you.